thanks to this guy, there's going to be a change of plans in the fish basement. So you might have guessed from seeing the shark at the beginning of the video, there was an incident in the fish basement, and it's going to have repercussions across the fish basement, and we're going to get into those behind the scene things, the change I'm going to have to make in this video. But I'm not going to leave you hanging, and I am going to show you the results of the fill test. So we'll catch up with the results of the fill test. We'll go into some of the progress on the 4,500 gallon, but then we'll look at what's going on with the other tanks. Because just because you're building a big tank in the annex doesn't mean the original fish basement isn't still cranking along. Things are happening, things are evolving, and yeah, something crazy happened this week. So I'll explain all of that, and I'll explain the repercussions and what I'm going to have to do to sort it out and make everything right. So let's go. Well, it is day 6 of the test fill, and as you can see, we are all full of water here. We had kind of a funny moment, so you might be able to see in the video there's a lot of condensation on the glass. Well, when you pump 60-degree water, 55-degree water into a room that is 77, 79 degrees, yeah, you get that. And so there has been no leaks. We are good 6 days in, but there has been puddles of condensation. And when you first walk in, you're like, oh no, what? Then you see, oh yeah, it's raining there. But we can see the room is, it's bringing up the temperature of the water. So it's probably 7, 8 degrees warmer than when it was put in. And I'm gonna go ahead and pump in a little bit of warm water, and I'm gonna crank up the temp in this part of the annex a little bit since there's no other tanks in here right now. And get it equalized, because that just it looks crazy with all that condensation. But one more day to go, and we're going to call the fill test a success. A full 7 days, time to empty it out, and then comes the fun part, because the last of the aquascaping materials comes tomorrow. Well, you can see the hose is in the filter box, and it is mostly drained out, and that is because it successfully held water for 7 days. No issues whatsoever other than condensation on the glass, but the actual tank held water, which is awesome. So what I'm gonna do now is get all of this water drained out, and yeah, time to start on the plumbing, the wetland filter, the lights. Oh man, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, have more aquascaping being delivered today. Okay, we've obviously seen the filter box, and we've seen the milk crates going to be used for the standoff for the plumbing to create that cavity underneath. Now we're going to show you the aggregate that's going to go in the wetland upflow filter that's going to provide all of the biological and mechanical filtration. Okay, I was going to say this is going to be literally a ton of material, but it's probably more than a ton. So we have a big hefty pile of 3 to 5 inch river jacks. This is going to create our first layer of the wetland filter. So the water comes from the cavity up into these big rounded porous cavities where the physical debris will get trapped and be easier to flush out versus having it trapped in the finer and finer aggregates. So we want to get most of the physical material here, the mechanical filtration take place here, and we still want that water traveling pretty fast. So we want big cavities between the rock for the water to upflow. And I shouldn't say this because it's good to get comments on videos, but yes, I will be washing all of this material extensively before it goes into the filter. Moving on to the next stage of the filter. Here we have the 3/4 to 1 inch river rock gravel. So again, it's smaller cavities now. So the water's coming up in here, and this is our polishing level, but still not so fine like sand or like small gravel that when we backflush the filter, we can still get those physical particles out of there and then have the water obviously still continue up through the filter. And then lastly, this is our polisher and our substrate for our aquatic plants that are going to make up the top portion of the wetland filter. This is our 1/2 inch pea gravel. Basically, not any physical, well, only very, very, very fine particles are going to ever make it through up to this level, but probably not. And of course, we're getting more and more surface area for bacteria. But if you combine all of this, literally thousands of pounds of material, you are talking about a bacterial powerhouse of a filter with freshly oxygenated water being introduced to the bottom of the filter constantly with all the goodies these guys want to munch on, like the ammonia waste, the nitrite waste, the nitrate waste. from the fish. So we have plenty of area for bacteria, and we create all the zones within the filter box. And I think right now might be a good time to let you know I'm starting a whole new business. It's called Aquarium Fit. It's instead of going to a gym to build muscles or lose weight, you come to my house, you pick up all these rocks and gravel and sand, you wash it off, and you bring it into me in the aquarium, and then I aquascape with it. I guarantee you in no time at all, you'll be in tip-top shape and I won't break my back. Yes, I am dreading getting all of this into the tank. It is going to be a chore. Yes, I will probably lose 5 or 10 pounds, which I can afford to do, and it keeps me in shape. Plus, I just keep telling myself, a few weekends worth of pain for a lifetime of enjoying a 33-foot long, 4,500 gallon aquarium with big cichlids, stingray, arowana, catfish, all the good stuff. All right, I'm pumped. I can move this rock in there. It's worth it. So as you can see, I had to wait 7 days for the fill test to be complete to make sure, and obviously good to go on that, which is awesome. That's a big milestone. But now we're getting into plumbing, and I asked you guys for your advice, and I got a lot of good advice, but the tricky part is we're trying to apply it to the build. So I have decided to go ahead and have the pumps in the water here, pulling directly from the water with the screens, and then the plumbing will go through here and loop over, and that'll hold all those guys in place. Now, the thought process was to run the plumbing underneath these bars, and I could basically suspend the plumbing underneath the support bars all the way down, and then if you ever had a leak or anything, you're just going right back into the aquarium. So it's an interesting idea, and I certainly thought about it and I tried to work it out, but unfortunately if I run some or any of the plumbing in the front, it's essentially always in my way, because as you can tell, with a tank this deep and this big, I have to get in to do things. So I'm going to be coming in and out of this tank just like the 3,000 gallon, or at the very least leaning way over, and I can't have the plumbing right there, and I can't have the plumbing in the back because that's where the riverbank system is, and that's going to be a series of supports running underneath all of these that are going to basically support the riverbank, because there's going to be all these immersed growing plants back there, so that's not going to work either. And then running the plumbing right down the middle, it's the most feasible way, but I decided it still sort of falls in the category of in my way and blocking the lighting, which is going to be, the lighting is going to be mounted up top here, close to flush mount up here, and then shining back and down into the tank. So that's kind of right in the sweet spot of that. I don't want to shade the tank with that. So what I've decided to do is I am just going to run all the plumbing along the back like I originally intended, but instead of on the wall like I intended, I'm going to run it across the back of the supports, but on the back behind the riverbank. And then furthermore, down with the wetland filter, because it's easy to access the front, I am going with my cleanouts in the front, and then I will bring all of the plumbing down the back. And one other quick change I made, and I'll talk about it in more detail when I'm actually showing you the wetland filter build, is I am increasing the pipe. So it's going to be 1 inch coming down from the pump, and then it's going to expand to 1.5 inch as it goes down, which is going to release any pressure. So it's actually going to basically help disperse that water, slow it down, and take any pressure off of the pump. All right, so let me go take you over, show you what happened with the shark, and let's go through what those changes are going to be on the fish room, because it's going to affect a bunch of tanks. So as you can see, the bamboo sharks are getting quite big, and you can also might notice that the lights are a little dim in here because I've been keeping the lights a little dimmer and power feeding these guys to keep them more docile, because what's been happening is as the bamboo sharks have gotten big, they've gotten aggressive. They have been attacking everyone a little bit. So the ray over here, you can see his disc got bit on one side, and this is sort of unusual. It is. So here's a little better look at his disc, the bite on it. And what's happening is during feeding, the bamboo sharks are getting really aggressive, and they're not trying to bite the ray or the other fish, but they're going so aggressively after food that they've bitten the ray, they've bitten the smaller shark, they've bitten the eel. The groupers are not acting the same during feeding. They're very hesitant of the bamboo sharks, and so I noticed that because it's been going on a little while, and I just said to myself, all right, we're going to have these guys in Predator Bay 3000 very soon. That's going to help alleviate the problem. So much more space, but in the meantime, let me go ahead and increase their feeding. Let's keep them, well fed and docile, even though they were certainly well fed. But this week, during the feeding, the blue spot grouper, which you guys probably don't see very often because he hides a lot from the other groupers, he came out and he struck for a piece of food, and so did the bamboo shark, and the bamboo shark hit him and bit the grouper kind of right on the middle part of his body. And when he did that, the grouper started thrashing around violently, and when he did that, both bamboo sharks just went crazy and started attacking him, and basically just ripped him in half, and just killed him. And since then, like normally on off feeding days, the groupers be cruising around, you see they're hiding out in caves. It's just there's a level of aggression that was never present in this aquarium, and it came on pretty quick I would say over the course of the last few months. So like I said, I've been keeping these guys really fat and lethargic to keep things calm until then. But so what it's made crystal clear is that I absolutely have to have more than just the 2 saltwater tanks, or I'll never be able to add any other fish to the 3,000 gallon once it becomes Predator Bay 3000. Once these guys are in there and even bigger and more aggressive, I'll never be able to bring in smaller fish that'll always be susceptible to being attacked. And also, I need a place to grow out these groupers more faster. They certainly can live with these sharks. They can be very large, but they're too intimidated right now, and I need a place where I can power feed them some and grow them out. So I'm gonna need to keep more saltwater tanks than just the 1800 becoming the Lagoon and then the Predator Bay 3000. And the most sensible way to do that is to keep the existing 1500 gallon saltwater system with the 600 gallon, the 265 up top, and then the 700 gallon Lagoon over there. So originally I was going to make this freshwater, but now I've decided that I'm going to keep this saltwater, and this is where I can grow up the other predators that are going to go in the Predator Bay 3000, keeping in mind that all of these guys will be going into the 1800 gallon, and then I can move the groupers into the 265 over there, and I can sort of power feed them and grow them out. And then moving forward, I probably would always want to keep this system saltwater, so that whether it's growing out fish, or if there's a fish I want to get, or a fish that don't fit in either one of the other tanks, this would be the place to keep them. Okay, so we know that changes 2 of the tanks and the 700 gallon refugium sum. That was going to be freshwater. That's going to stay saltwater. That's going to keep us with 4 or 5 saltwater tanks right down the middle of the aquarium basement. But what are the ramifications on the freshwater tanks? Well, it starts with the 750 gallon. I know I'm kind of talking about a lot of things that are having issues and everything, but one tank that isn't having issues is the 600 gallon Asian jungle, doing awesome. And those lilies have grown all the way up. They're growing huge. Loving this tank. Just such a, I can't wait to do the Zen Aquarium. It's going to be another version of this with different stocking, but just so easy and peaceful, you know. Sometimes these big boys, the sharks and the cichlids, they're a lot of work. So the 750 gallon here is actually going to turn into a African cichlid tank for peacocks and haps. I think it's going to be a better fit for a tank that is 5 feet front to back. As you can see, a very deep tank. Goes all the way back, and 6 feet wide. So a big chunky tank. It's going to be better for them. And from keeping the cichlids in here, I can tell you right now, they're constantly breeding, and there's not as big of a footprint as you would think lengthwise here. 6 feet doesn't go very far when you have multiple groups of breeding cichlids. So I'm thinking a longer tank, so I'm going to move these guys. And of course, you know how we do it aquarium style. They're in a 750, they're going to be going to a 1,500 gallon in the annex. So let's go take a look at what I'm talking about. So we all know the 4,500 gallon, that's that entire back wall, 33 feet of it. The next plan was to build the 12-foot Zen aquarium, but I'm gonna put a hold on that and I'm gonna build one of the center aquariums. Both these center aquariums here are 10 feet long, 5 feet from front to back, and they are 1,500 gallons, 3 feet tall. So I'm gonna build one of these next, and it is gonna be an Amazon cichlid aquarium with the community. It's gonna be all the stuff out of the 750, plus there'll be, you know, new additions and everything. So that'll allow me to move those guys forward into a better setup, because the problem with the current setup is the filtration. With all of the root, all of the plecos, and all of the geophagas in here, they're constantly breaking down the wood and stirring everything up, and there just isn't enough mechanical filtration to remove it from the aquarium and the water column to make it look crystal clear all the time. So I thought about modifying the filtration and adding in like a mini wetland filter to do the job, but then I thought, you know what? If I just move them to their new 10-foot long, 1,500 gallon aquarium, it'll have a wetland filter. It'll handle all of the debris that this filtration system doesn't handle that well. And I'll be best of both worlds. Plus, I'll give all these guys the space they need to spread out. So they'll have the same front to back, but they'll be 4 feet longer than they are right now. So I think it's a win-win for all of the, you know, for both situations. And I think this is actually a perfect tank for the African cichlids, especially with the scape I have planned. And thankfully my easy tanks like the Malawi Mbuna River Aquarium and the 220 Distance Aquarium are doing awesome as always, but I figured I'd touch on a couple of these tanks just to show you what's going to go on. So we know I have a sort of a quick DIY sump system in there, which it works except for I want more volume. There's a lot of space that's not being used by the sump, so I'd like to modify that and make it better. I've got a few ideas, but something to look forward to, improving the filter system here on the Discus Aquarium. And as always, sort of a theme in my aquarium basement right now is lights dying. So I got one up there that seems to be on its last legs, but basically modifying the filter on the Discus Aquarium. And on the Electric Blue Jack Dempsey Riverbank Aquarium, I've decided that I'm going to go with the floating plants instead of the bog plants on the middle part of the tank. So another light burned out, which is, you can see that sort of been the theme lately. After 6 or 8 years, I seem to be losing a bunch of LED lights. I guess it's just their time. But I'm going to take down this monstrosity here. I'm going to repurpose these lights over here for the bog filter. And then I'm going to get new lights that will be suspended much closer to the aquarium for the water lettuce. So that'll give us better lighting in the aquarium, and it should work better to promote the growth on the water lettuce. So we have lighting projects to go here, and we have a couple filtration projects to work on as well. And then of course, you know, we'll do it all custom. So as always, there's a ton going on, but I just thought it was important to sort of show you behind the scenes why certain things shake out the way they do, why I make some of the decisions I make, and let you know that I do read all the comments. You know, I respond to all the comments, and I take, you know, I internalize everything you guys say, and I do look at it and try to apply it where, you know, ones that I think make sense, you know, the ones I want to go with, you know, I try to make it work, and a lot of times I end up with, you know, a derivative of it just because I know it's hard for you guys to see the exact dimensions and layout of everything in a video, and then when you go to apply it here, you run into things, so you have to make changes, and then of course, you know, those little sharks that look so cute at 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, well now when they're 4.5 feet long, they're getting a little aggressive, you know, in that 1,800 gallon, and they're causing me to have to make some changes, and, you know, everything has an effect. So just want to show you how those decisions come about. It's not just arbitrary. Things are always happening, and I wanted to show you guys the results of the fill test and a little bit of the progress on the 4,500 gallon build. But I can tell you what, there's going to be another video coming after this one very soon, which is going to have the lighting, the plumbing, and the wetland filter in it all the way done. So it's going to be a big one, and it's, like I said, it's not going to be spaced out like it has been for a little bit, because there's no silicone to cure, there's no 7-day water test to wait out. It's more fast and furious, and like I said, I have all the materials. Everything is staged and ready to go. So that video will be following pretty quickly after this one. None of the 2-week stuff. And who knows, if you see any aquascaping starting in there, then you know I made some really good progress. But I can definitely promise you those that the lighting, plumbing, and wetland will be in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.